We're here with Andrew Moulden, the leader of the Canadian Action Party, Dr. Andrew Moulden, I should say. First off, I'd like to ask you, what's your background as a doctor?
I entered the university in Ontario in 1987, and I attended the equivalent of 6 different universities across Canada. I completed a bachelor's degree in biological psychology, a master's degree in child development and language development of children. Went on to a PhD at the University of Ottawa in clinical experimental neuropsychology, did a subspecialization in cognitive neuroscience. Went on to the University of Toronto and completed my doctorate thesis in electrophysiology, looking at how the brain processes information. Did my PhD comprehensive exams on acquired brain injuries. My clinical training was in brain and behavioral assessments, and from there went on to medical school at McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, and I graduated there in 2000, and went on from there into residency training into psychiatry, neuropsychiatry. So my background training is by and large in the brain and behavioral neurosciences is what my area of specialty is. The Canadian Action Party is a federal political party in Canada, which was established by Deputy Prime Minister Paul Hellyer in 1997. Mr. Hellyer was the Deputy Prime Minister under Pierre Elliott Trudeau, and Mr. Hellyer foresaw, even back in the late 1990s, the direction to which our country was headed towards losing its sovereignty, losing control, and had already lost its control at that point of its monetary control and sovereignty. And he realized that a new vehicle was required in order to advance for buying of the people on multiple fronts that affects the average everyday Canadian. And he was seeing that for buying of the people was being replaced serially with the idea of corporate rule, which is where we are at today. William Lyon Mackenzie King in 1930 nationalized our Bank of Canada. Our bank, that means your bank. Our bank belongs to citizens. In fact, in Canada, in North America, Canada has the only publicly owned bank that exists. And this Bank of Canada that William Lyon Mackenzie King nationalized prints our money and provides money, actually loans money to society to fund our infrastructure. So by example, by using our Bank of Canada to fund our infrastructure, we pay ourselves interest rather than some foreign or some private banking cartel. So our Bank of Canada, by belonging to us, we borrowed from it, we print the money, and then on that loan we pay ourselves back interest. So we paid for our St. Lawrence Seaway, we paid for our Trans-Canada National Highway, we got through a depression, we got through the Second World War, and we had an $18 billion national debt. Fantastic. But in 1974, as a condition of joining at the time this G7, this group of 7, which became the G8, which is now the group of 20, this was following something called the Milton Friedman School of Business in Chicago. And they thought, well, it's better to give the banking industry of countries to the private markets and let it be handled there and go with the ebb and flow. But as a condition of being a part of these groups, nations have to give up the control of issuing themselves their own credit, of loaning to themselves. And because we chose to do this, because we thought being part of this group of 7 or group of 8, now G20, was a good thing for Canada, we stopped using our Bank of Canada to fund our infrastructure. We don't borrow from ourselves anymore. We borrow from the private banking cartel. And what has happened by doing that is a condition of being part of this greater group. You know, when 80% of the Canadian economy comes from domestic trading within our country, to give up this right to lend to ourselves is absurd, because what has happened? We've gone from an $18 billion deficit to up to a $588 billion deficit, of which about 95% of that is compound interest. And money, we're paying interest to who? Well, there's no person out there who has a Canadian flag, who lives in Canada, who we pay $60 billion in interest, both federally, provincially, and at the municipal levels too. We're paying someone else interest on the money that we can print and produce ourselves and lend it to ourselves to fund our infrastructure, to fund our social programs, to fund our education for our university students who are also being put in a debt trap. But as you give up control of your currency, and William Lyon Mackenzie King said it most poignantly when he said this, he said, you know, the issuance of the credit and currency is the state's most precious resource. And once you give up that control, it matters not who makes the laws of the land, because usury, once in control, will wreak havoc on any nation. And this whole new world order ideation is a bunch of banking and intellectual elites that basically see the same sort of mentality. Control the economy, control the issuance of currency, you control the nation. And now control the food, you control the people. And this is how the entire thing, by incremental changes the laws. Better for the corporations, the average citizen is out in the wind. And then when it comes down to going to battle here, the corporations can take out the mom and pop operations, and then you basically become under this whole feudalistic state. Historically, the world has learned that the brute force, either military, the German regime during the Second World War is a good example to try to take over a large territory by military industrial actions, that society will stand up for its rights if they see some significant change coming that they haven't had participation in, or had a chance to vote or discuss, or had their input to say whether they find this acceptable or not. And the people who want to impose changes to bring us to one global union, countries, sovereign countries being ruled by a self-appointed intellectual and banking elite is what they truly are. That they realize that they have to go against the individuals in society. And individuals in society, when they see a large change coming, they balk at it because you can see the beginning and the end. You can see the end of this tunnel of this pictures being painted for us that we want to give up our rights and our sovereignty by our own free will. If we can see the end goal from the very beginning, we balk at that. And those who want to impose change on us and maneuver us to a certain position of their own design recognize that. So by incremental changes, it's kind of like stealth underneath the radar, and each day another piece gets changed. And these are being touted in security and prosperity partnerships, which are security and prosperity for the elite, and nothing secure or prosper for the individual average Canadian citizen. And trade agreements that say that it's for our better good as a nation to be able to have freedom of movement of people, of goods, and regulations on tariffs. That all these slow stepwise changes is a way to subtly change the laws of the land and switch it from being there for and by the people to for and by the elite individual groups, corporations by and large, that serve to benefit the most. So by doing incrementally these changes in our laws and our land, then one day we'll all wake up and say, oh, that's just the way it is. But it was not supposed to be that way. You can come across a border with an army with all of your military machinery, and people say, oh my gosh, we're being attacked. But right now we're being attacked, but incremental changes is a way that people don't see that the arrows and bullets and guns and cannons are blazing at us, and we don't recognize that. If you get into an elevator and there's 20 people on the elevator and 19 of them are facing the back of the elevator, well, by social conformity, although the right thing to do is to face the front of the elevator because that's where the door is open, to fit in with the greater crowd, you turn around and face the back. Don't know why, which is what seems to be the status quo.
These folks who are entering, the man with the white shirt, the lady with the trench coat, and subsequently one other member of our staff, will face the rear. And you'll see how this man in the trench coat tries to maintain his individuality, but little by little, he looks at his watch, but he's really making an excuse for turning just a little bit more to the wall. Now we'll try it once again. Here's the candid subject. Here comes the candid camera staff, 3 of them at least. And this man has apparently been in groups before.
And then people are complicit here by the same mentality, because those who seek to enslave us, those who seek to usurp our rights, those who seek to steal the sovereignty of our nations, and those who seek to change our laws to fit the greater good, to harmonize us, are painting a story that this is for our good. And people do not know. Even our elected officials don't go in and read the fine print of all these trade laws are going in there. It's, oh my gosh, that's a bad thing for our country. But when these people recognize this is a war, and we really are at a silent war here for our nationhood, and not just Canada, all nations are under the same sort of threat of attack, is that those who seek to enslave us realize that the popular opinion is critical, and for their means is that how do you control the opinion of a population of individuals? Well, you buy up their media, you buy up their television and programming, you bombard them with the same message over and over again. And again, this slow incremental changes that you're brainwashed as a society to believe this is for your greater good, this is inevitable, it's going to go down that way, and we all basically follow along by what we're being told, led like blind sheep.